feminine power is often misunderstood. It is mistaken for control, for strategy, for emotional leverage. As if influence were something you seize with your hands instead of something that radiates from within you. But real feminine power has never been about force. It has always been about presence. There is a moment when a woman realizes that the more she tries to manage outcomes, the less grounded she feels inside herself. She explains, adjusts, anticipates, softens her truth so that the connection won't break. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, her center shifts outward. Her energy begins to orbit another person instead of anchoring in her own body. What feels like effort is actually a quiet loss of self. Carl Jung believed that true authority comes from individuation, from becoming whole within oneself rather than seeking completion through others. And this is where feminine power truly begins. Not in persuasion, not in control, but in inner grounding. In the calm knowledge of who you are, even when no one is validating it. A grounded woman does not rush to be understood. She does not chase reactions. She does not tighten her grip when uncertainty appears. She stays. She breathes. She remains connected to herself first. And something subtle happens in the space around her. The emotional field changes. People listen more carefully. They move differently. They sense depth before words are spoken. This is influence without force. Presence is not passive. It is concentrated awareness. It is the ability to occupy your body fully, without apology, without explaining your right to exist as you are. When a woman is internally anchored, she no longer negotiates her worth through behavior. Her nervous system is calm. Her gaze is steady. Her silence is not empty. It is full. Jung would say that the unconscious responds not to what we say, but to what we are. And this is why presence is so powerful. It bypasses argument. It bypasses resistance. It speaks directly to something older and deeper in the other person. Something that recognizes strength without aggression. This is where feminine power begins to return. Not as dominance, but as gravity. Not as control, but as quiet authority. And as you begin to feel this grounding inside yourself, you may notice something surprising. You no longer need to prove anything. Influence follows you naturally, because it was never meant to be chased. This is only the beginning. When a woman tries to control, she often believes she is protecting herself, protecting the connection, protecting love, protecting her place in someone's life. But control is rarely strength. It is usually fear wearing discipline's clothing. Fear of loss. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of being unseen. Control requires constant vigilance. Watching tones. Reading pauses. Calculating responses. Adjusting timing. And while it may look composed on the outside, internally it fragments a woman's energy. Part of her is present, but another part is always scanning, correcting, managing. This is not power. This is emotional overextension. Carl Jung spoke about the danger of living from the persona, the constructed self we present to secure belonging. When a woman operates from control, she is often performing stability instead of inhabiting it. She becomes skilled at holding things together, but disconnected from the source that once made her magnetic. True feminine energy does not chase certainty. It tolerates ambiguity without collapsing. It understands that influence cannot be forced into existence. The moment you try to manage how you are perceived, you have already stepped out of your center. This is why control exhausts you. It pulls you upward into the mind instead of downward into the body. And feminine power lives in the body, in breath, rhythm, intuition, grounded awareness. When you leave that place, you may still function, but you no longer radiate. A grounded woman does not need to monitor reactions constantly. She allows people to reveal themselves. She allows silence to do its work. She allows outcomes to form without gripping them. This is not indifference. This is trust in her own solidity. Jung believed that what is not integrated becomes compulsive. Control is often a sign that inner grounding has been replaced by urgency. And urgency always weakens presence. It creates tension where there could be depth. When you release the need to control, something unexpected happens. You don't become less influential, you become more distinct. Your energy stops leaking outward. Your boundaries become quieter but firmer. People sense that you are no longer available for emotional negotiation. And this is where real influence begins to emerge. Not because you demand it, but because you no longer need it to feel whole. In the next part, we will explore how inner grounding reshapes the way others respond to you. Without effort, without pressure, without force. There is a form of influence that cannot be rehearsed. It cannot be learned through tactics or perfected through repetition. It emerges only when a woman is deeply present with herself. And this kind of presence changes everything without announcing itself. Presence is what remains when you are no longer trying to be chosen. When your attention returns to your own inner state, instead of orbiting someone else's reactions. A present woman listens fully, but she does not dissolve. She feels deeply, but she does not abandon herself. Her energy is gathered, not scattered. Carl Jung believed that when the psyche is aligned, it produces a natural authority. Not authority imposed from above, but one that arises organically from wholeness. This is why presence feels so different from control. Control tightens. Presence settles. Control pushes outward. Presence pulls inward, and that inward movement creates gravity. People respond instinctively to this, not because they understand it, but because they feel it. A woman who is present does not fill silence nervously. She does not rush to explain herself. She allows pauses. She allows others to come toward her rather than leaning forward to meet them halfway before they arrive. This is not withdrawal. It is containment. When you are grounded, your words slow down. Your gestures become intentional. Your emotional responses are no longer immediate reactions, but conscious choices. And this changes the emotional rhythm of any interaction. Others begin to adjust unconsciously. They listen more closely. They choose their words more carefully. They feel the weight of your attention. Jung would say that the unconscious mirrors strength when it encounters it. Presence communicates, I am here with myself. And that message reaches deeper than persuasion ever could. This is why feminine influence does not need to dominate. It invites. It shapes the emotional field simply by being stable within it. When you are grounded, you stop trying to guide the outcome. And paradoxically, outcomes begin to shift in your favor. You become less predictable, not because you are inconsistent, but because you are no longer reactive. And non-reactivity is deeply disarming. It removes the emotional hooks that keep unhealthy dynamics alive. A present woman does not chase intensity. She creates depth. And depth holds people longer than excitement ever could. In the next part, we will explore how inner grounding changes your emotional boundaries, not through rules, but through embodied clarity that others cannot ignore. When a woman is truly grounded, her boundaries no longer need explanation. They are not announced, justified, or defended. They are simply felt. And this is one of the most misunderstood aspects of feminine power. Many women believe boundaries must be spoken forcefully to be respected. But boundaries that come from fear require constant reinforcement. Boundaries that come from inner grounding require none. They live in posture, in pacing, in what you allow yourself to tolerate, and what you naturally step away from without drama. Carl Jung believed that what is unconscious seeks expression through behavior. A grounded woman does not argue about her limits because her behavior already reflects them. She does not overextend. She does not stay where she feels diminished. She does not chase clarity from someone who thrives in confusion. And because she is not emotionally entangled in proving her worth, her no is clean. This clarity is deeply unsettling to those who rely on emotional negotiation. They sense that something has changed. That access is no longer automatic. That attention must now be earned through presence rather than entitlement. And they feel this without being told. Grounded boundaries are not rigid. They are alive. They respond without overreacting. They protect without hardening. A woman in her center does not punish. She withdraws alignment. She does not threaten. She simply removes herself from what no longer matches her internal state. Jung would describe this as the psyche returning to equilibrium. When inner order is restored, outer chaos loses its grip. You no longer feel compelled to convince others to treat you differently. You become unavailable to what disrupts your internal coherence. This is why grounded boundaries feel almost invisible, yet powerful. They do not provoke confrontation, but they do provoke reflection. People begin to sense that they cannot bypass your standards with charm, excuses, or inconsistency. And perhaps the most important shift happens inside you. You stop bracing. You stop anticipating conflict. You stop rehearsing explanations. Your nervous system settles into safety because your actions finally match your truth. In the next part, we will explore how this inner grounding transforms attraction, not by trying to be desirable, but by becoming internally aligned in a way that others instinctively respond to. Attraction shifts the moment a woman stops trying to create it. When you are grounded, you are no longer performing desirability. You are no longer adjusting your tone, your timing, your availability to maintain interest. You stop leaning forward energetically. And this changes the dynamic in a way that feels almost unsettling at first, because you are no longer working. Carl Jung believed that projection fuels attraction. People are drawn not to what is fully exposed, but to what has depth and coherence. A grounded woman does not offer herself in fragments. She is whole within herself. And wholeness invites projection because it creates space. Space for curiosity. Space for longing. Space for respect. This is why attraction without striving feels different. It is quieter, slower, and more stable. You are not chasing emotional highs. You are not amplifying yourself to be noticed. Your presence alone becomes noticeable because it is contained. Men, in particular, respond strongly to this shift, not because of manipulation, but because they feel a change in emotional gravity. When you are not trying to secure attention, attention reorganizes itself around you. When you are not seeking reassurance, reassurance begins to appear. When you are not proving your value, value becomes assumed. Jung would say that the psyche recognizes completeness. And completeness is deeply attractive because it does not demand, it invites. A woman who is grounded is not trying to be interesting. She is interested in her own inner alignment. And this inward focus creates an outward pull. You may notice that conversations slow down, that people linger longer, that eye contact deepens, not because you are doing more, but because you are no longer leaking energy through effort. This kind of attraction is sustainable. It does not burn hot and collapse. It builds slowly and holds. And most importantly, it does not cost you your center. In the next part, we will explore how inner grounding reshapes emotional intimacy, allowing closeness without self-loss and connection without control. One of the greatest fears many women carry is that closeness requires self-sacrifice, that intimacy demands adaptation, that to be loved, you must soften your edges, silence your instincts, and merge your inner world with another's needs. But this belief is not intimacy. It is emotional fusion, and fusion always costs you yourself. True intimacy begins where grounding is strong enough to hold closeness without collapse. Carl Jung spoke of the danger of losing oneself in relationship, warning that love without individuation becomes possession rather than connection. When a woman is not grounded, intimacy pulls her outward. She starts monitoring moods, managing emotional climates, carrying what is not hers to carry. Love becomes effort instead of exchange. But when you are anchored within yourself, intimacy changes shape. You no longer rush to fill emotional gaps. You allow the other person to meet you where you are, rather than moving yourself to where they feel comfortable. You share feelings without over-explaining them. You express needs without fearing abandonment. And because you are not bargaining for closeness, closeness becomes more honest. Grounded intimacy has a rhythm. It breathes. It allows distance without panic and closeness without fear. You no longer confuse intensity with depth. You recognize that true connection feels steady, not destabilizing. A grounded woman does not disappear when she loves. She becomes more herself. Her opinions remain intact. Her body stays relaxed. Her intuition stays online. And because she does not dissolve into the relationship has something real to connect with. This is deeply influential, because emotional maturity invites emotional maturity. When you stop carrying the emotional weight alone, the other person must either rise or reveal their limitations. Jung believed that relationship is a mirror for the psyche, and grounded intimacy reflects truth. It shows who is capable of meeting you and who only enjoyed your overgiving. And perhaps the most powerful shift happens inside you. You stop confusing connection with survival. You realize that love is not something you cling to, it is something you allow. In the next part, we will explore how feminine power transforms when you stop seeking emotional safety from others and begin generating it from within. Most attempts to control relationships come from a single unmet need: safety. Emotional safety. The need to feel secure, chosen, grounded in someone else's presence. And for a long time, many women were taught, subtly or directly, that safety must be negotiated externally, that it comes from reassurance, consistency from another, promises, explanations. But true feminine power awakens the moment you stop outsourcing safety. Carl Jung believed that whatever we seek compulsively outside ourselves is something the psyche has not yet integrated within. When a woman looks to others to stabilize her emotions, she gives away her center. Her mood becomes reactive. Her sense of self becomes conditional. And no matter how much she receives, it never feels enough, because it was never meant to come from there. Inner grounding changes this completely. When you learn to generate safety inside your own body, your relationships reorganize. You no longer cling to consistency because you are consistent with yourself. You no longer panic at distance because you are internally present. You no longer overinterpret silence because your inner world is calm. This does not make you distant. It makes you sovereign. A woman who feels safe within herself does not rush emotional processes. She allows people to move at their own pace without abandoning her own. She does not interpret uncertainty as rejection. She does not confuse anxiety with chemistry. Her nervous system is settled, and this stability becomes contagious. Jung would say that such a woman has integrated her inner opposites: strength and softness, independence and connection. And this integration produces a quiet authority, not dominance, not detachment, but emotional leadership. Others feel this instinctively. They sense that your presence is not conditional, that your affection is real, but not desperate, that your openness does not come from lack, but from abundance. And this creates respect on a level words cannot achieve. When inner safety is established, influence no longer feels like effort. You stop trying to manage outcomes because you trust yourself to handle whatever unfolds. And this trust is felt by others as confidence, not performative confidence, but embodied certainty. In the next part, we will explore how this grounded feminine power reshapes conflict, tension, and emotional challenges, without escalation, without collapse, without force. One of the clearest signs of feminine grounding appears in moments of tension, not when everything flows easily, but when discomfort enters the space. When expectations clash, when silence stretches, when something feels misaligned. This is where old patterns usually activate, explaining, defending, fixing, raising emotional volume to regain balance. But a grounded woman no longer rushes to neutralize tension. She allows it to exist without making it her responsibility. Carl Jung believed that tension between opposites is not a problem to be solved, but a force that creates consciousness. When a woman does not collapse under emotional pressure, tension becomes revealing rather than destructive. It shows intentions. It exposes maturity. It clarifies dynamics. A grounded woman does not escalate conflict because she is not fighting for emotional survival. Her nervous system is regulated. Her sense of self is intact. She can listen without absorbing. She can speak without needing immediate resolution. And this steadiness changes the entire interaction. When you remain calm in moments where others expect reaction, you shift the power dynamic instantly, not through superiority, but through self-possession. Silence becomes intentional, words become measured, and suddenly, the emotional temperature lowers, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Jung would say that when one's psyche remains centered, it forces the other to confront itself. A grounded woman does not mirror chaos. She becomes a boundary that chaos cannot penetrate. This does not mean avoidance. It means discernment. You engage when it is meaningful. You withdraw when it is draining. And because your responses are no longer predictable reactions, others must approach you with more awareness. This is influence without aggression, strength without hardness, authority without control. In the next part, we will explore the final transformation, how feminine power matures into a presence that does not seek to change others, but inevitably changes everything around it. There comes a quiet shift, almost imperceptible, when a woman stops trying to change anyone, not because she has given up, but because she has returned fully to herself. This is where feminine power matures into something rare. When you are grounded, you no longer correct, persuade, or push growth. You simply live from alignment. And alignment is confrontational in the most subtle way. It exposes incongruence without accusation. It reveals immaturity without naming it. It invites depth without requesting it. Carl Jung believed that transformation cannot be forced from the outside. It occurs only when the psyche is ready to confront itself. A grounded woman becomes a mirror, not a reflective surface that flatters, but a living presence that reveals. And not everyone can tolerate that. Some people will rise in your presence. They will become more attentive, more responsible, more honest, not because you demanded it, but because your energy makes pretense uncomfortable. Others will distance themselves. They will feel restless, defensive, irritated, because your grounding highlights what they avoid within themselves. And this is not your task to manage. This is where many women feel tempted to soften again, to explain, to reassure, to make themselves easier to be around. But true feminine power does not shrink to preserve comfort. It stays rooted and lets others choose their level of consciousness. Jung would say that what we encounter in others is often a reflection of our own inner state. When you stop abandoning yourself, relationships reorganize. Some deepen, some dissolve, and both outcomes are signs of alignment, not loss. A grounded woman does not need to be understood by everyone. She understands herself. She does not fear being misinterpreted because her identity is no longer built on approval. Her influence is not loud, but it is undeniable. And perhaps the most profound realization emerges here. You were never meant to manage emotional outcomes. You were meant to embody truth. And truth, when lived, does its work without effort. In the final part, we will bring everything together, and you will feel why feminine power has never been about control, but about becoming so anchored within yourself that influence follows naturally. Now everything comes together quietly, without a dramatic conclusion, because real feminine power does not announce itself. It settles. It integrates. It becomes the way you live inside your own skin. Feminine power was never meant to be control. Control is rigid, anxious, vigilant. It is born from fear of loss. But presence is fluid, grounded, alive. It does not hold tightly because it does not fear disappearance. And this is why presence carries influence without force. When you are anchored within yourself, you no longer ask life to prove your worth. You no longer negotiate your value through patience, endurance, or emotional labor. You move from inner alignment, and alignment reorganizes everything around you. Carl Jung described individuation as the return to one's true center, the moment when a person stops living as a reaction to the world and begins living as an expression of their inner truth. This is exactly what happens when feminine power matures. You stop shaping yourself to be acceptable. You stop controlling to feel safe. You stop performing strength, because strength has become your natural state. Your presence becomes coherent. Your emotions are honest, but not overwhelming. Your boundaries are calm, but immovable. Your femininity is no longer something you use. It is something you inhabit. And from this place, influence is inevitable. People feel you before they understand you. They sense depth in your silence. They sense clarity in your choices. They sense that being close to you requires sincerity, not strategy. And those who cannot meet that standard drift away, not because you rejected them, but because truth does not negotiate. This is the paradox of feminine power. The less you try to shape others, the more your presence shapes the space. The less you seek control, the more natural authority you carry. The less you force outcomes, the more aligned outcomes find you. You were never meant to be loud to be powerful. You were never meant to dominate to be influential. You were meant to be grounded. And when a woman is grounded, fully, quietly, unmistakably, she does not need to control anything. Her presence already speaks.